you said, you saw vulnerability as a massive weakness.
Yes.
Why?
My father has a lot to do with the reasons why.
Man up, toughen up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grow up here.
Previously, before the spiral out of control, I didn't think I was lost.
Hi, I'm Mark Constable.
Hi, I'm Mike Payne.
Hi, I'm Stuart Swindell.
And this is the Stuck
As
Fuck
Podcast.
Ever feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall? Running the business can take everything out of you. And somewhere along the way, you start to wonder, how and where did I lose myself in all of this?
Welcome to Stuck as Fuck, the podcast for business owners, leaders and entrepreneurs who have hit that point. Burnt out, fed up and desperate for a way forward. We're here to help.
This is real talk with real people. And the best part, you don't have to do it all alone.
Let's work it out and break free together.
Welcome to another episode of Stuck as Fuck. Before we jump into the podcast, please make sure you subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the more input we get, and the more points of view we get, and the more discussion points we get. Today we're going to be talking about vulnerability, Stuart and Mark. How do you feel about that?
Vulnerable.
Bring it on.
Vulnerable?
Bring it on.
I feel vulnerable about it. This is probably one of my worst words. But yeah, we're going to be answering questions. We're going to be discussing things that makes, especially males, blokes, vulnerable, and see if we can get to the bottom of it, of actually why we feel that we maybe can't be vulnerable. Sorry, I don't know what I did there.
But let's just delve into that a little bit as well, because when you said, you saw vulnerability as a massive weakness.
Yes.
Why? Where did that come from?
I think it comes from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it is, and maybe we said it previously before, my father has a lot to do with the reasons why I progressed the way that I did. And I think being vulnerable means, for me, and that's the scariest thing, because I remember it was on that programme, you said about being vulnerable, and I said it scares the life out of me to do it. And I think for me, the biggest concern I ever had was not about putting myself out there and me as a person, but actually laying my feelings down. And I'm not concerned what people think of my feelings. I am who I am. So there was never a barrier about saying these things. It was more of a case of an internal thing for me to actually say, well, I'm putting it out there. How do I feel about it? So it was never what you thought about it, or you, or anyone else. It was about what did I think about it, because it was completely unusual. It was outside of my comfort zone.
Let me just challenge that though. I mean,
Please do.
there must have been a reason why you feared putting it out there. So is that fear of what others would say, which I think is what you're saying it wasn't. But therefore, I'm interested what
the fear was.
Yeah, what you think it was.
I think the fear has come from when I was a very early age, where I was told emotions and crying and stuff is a weakness.
Right.
Who told you that?
My father.
Okay.
Listen, I love my dad to pieces. I've got a great relationship with him now over the last couple of years, and I'm thankful for that, because he's obviously getting older and we're doing a lot more. But previously, that's what he said to me, and I think I've never allowed myself to be vulnerable in the respect of other people. What's what I'm looking for? Breaking my heart or putting me down.
Yeah.
If I look at my past relationships and work and stuff, I think that's the biggest thing. When I look at the past, I think to myself, well, I'm not going to get too attached to you in a relationship, and that includes my ex-wife. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I don't get too attached because I don't feel comfortable with this, because in reality you can hurt me, and I'm never going to let anyone hurt me.
Right. Yeah.
And I actually, being a grown up about it, I actually think to myself, I might have missed out on an awful lot. On that basis, I can sit here and go, am I successful? Well, I'm successful only what I know. But when you actually open yourself up to it, I'd actually probably say I don't know. I can't go change the past or predict the future. But for me, I think to myself, actually, would I have been successful in a different way? Would I have been in a loving marriage? I've got two beautiful children, and I would never change that. And that's a good thing to come out the last 45 years.
Yeah.
But it's not about money. It's not about businesses. It's not about that. It's about me as a person.
We've seen a big change in you around that. But certainly what you described there about vulnerability and not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, I can relate to that as well. It's only more recent in the last sort of few years, 2 to 3 years, that I've allowed myself to be more vulnerable for pretty much the same reasons as you. It's just like, well, you know, you've got to be seen to be in control, and you know. But I realised that actually isn't who I am. And what I was doing was just creating a version of myself to make it look like I've got it all together. But just as you've pointed out as well, what are you missing out on by doing that? By trying to protect yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, I think this is a really common thing with men. What we do, is,
especially our age. You know, I think it's, you know, this is a very pre-1980s point of view, and it's a, you know, it's a belief that you know, man up,
man
toughen
up, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
grow a pair,
100%,
all of those things, you know, that we got brought up with. I mean, I think we're quite fortunate in a way, because I think there's much more transparency in the world now, and so we've seen the sort of pre-days up to now.
I certainly see that with younger generations. You know, I work with a lot of younger business owners that are sort of, you know, in that millennial sort of age, late 20s, early 30s to mid 30s, that sort of thing. And they're very, very different, much more open with their feelings and where they're coming from. For the majority, I mean, I'm not, you know, that's a generalisation, but generally what I see is that. Yeah. And it's quite refreshing, actually. And I think the other part, and again, I'm just putting this out there to see what you guys think, but I think that we think is that we have got, as men, you know, that hard exterior actually is more attractive to the opposite sex.
Do you know what? You're right, but I'd even turn around and say now, as I've realised that, is that you actually attract the wrong sort of people.
I totally agree, and that's what I think. I think that's what we think we've got to do, because we think that's what women want.
Yes.
But actually, since I've learned to be more vulnerable, I actually find that it opens relationships up in a much better way.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the misconception, I think, a lot of the time. And this whole thing as men, especially when, you know, we've got kids, we've got like jobs or businesses, like, and there's a lot of dependency on us, perceived dependency on us, that we've got to be everything to everyone. And we've got to make it look like we're in control.
Or we know what we're doing.
And that we know what we're doing at all times, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is that so often, and this is why I think that men our age suffer so much with mental health issues, and are the highest sort of risk for suicide as well, is because we feel like we've got to bottle all of this stuff up. We don't let it out. So it's interesting, you know, especially for you, Mike, someone who's been in the military. You know, you've got that sort of hardcore look on life. You've been very much command and control, and like you say, control's been an important part of your life. But this has changed.
Foundation of my life.
Foundation, absolutely. Foundation.
And I think, Joe, what going on that point, I think there's another point as well. I don't know, you said obviously you was vulnerable, and I was as well. And I look back and I think, well, I've done something out to everybody else. But when you're actually sitting there alone or in your own thoughts, in your own head, you know, there's been times when I've actually sat there, and I've never understood the reason why I think it, but I've actually sat there and thought, why the hell have you done that? Is that how you really, really want to be?
Oh, I see, in that way.
Yeah, in that way, you know, with work and stuff, I've got to be a certain way, or I perceive I've got to be a certain way.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah. It is a perception.
And the perception, that's what it comes down to. And I think, right, well, I've got to be like that, and I've got to tell someone this, and I've got to control it, and I can't let someone know that they've upset me because for whatever reason. I mean, I show my emotions through anger. I actually look back on it, I think to myself, why did I do that? And as I got older, I started questioning it. Especially now I've got kids.
Yeah.
Do you know the anger as an emotion is a cover for being hurt?
Yeah, 100%.
In some way.
100%. It's exactly the same. You know, I'm sure there's people out there who will be watching this that probably can resonate with us massively. You know, that they have to be a certain way. They can't be vulnerable because of work, because of the family. Yeah. But I think a lot of it also comes down to the environment we're in.
I just want to look back to something you said a minute ago and just sort of do a bit more of a deep dive into that as well, which was about anger. Yeah. As a form of masking hurt. Yeah. Yeah. Just expand on that a little bit.
Well, I think it's the initial reaction that can come out, especially from blokes. I think, you know, we're more prone to getting angry. actually, if you sit with it a while and actually think about it, usually underneath that we feel either, you know, any of the feelings really of why we would feel hurt, either through guilt, through betrayment of some type. Really, any of those feelings that or emotions that lead to feeling hurt, often you'll find that under that anger is that hurt.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I don't know, I don't even remember where I picked that up from. But actually, when I thought about it more, and I did, there was one exercise that I went through where you sort of, it's, you know, sort of a laying down exercise, and then you sort of drop down below the anger and so forth, and you keep going into the sort of lower feelings and so forth.
Yep.
And it's amazing what you sort of can discover from something like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, that whole concept of if we truly love ourselves, you know, if we really love ourselves for who we are unconditionally, then we should never be angry.
Correct.
We should never be sad or upset. Yeah. And I think a lot of people say, no, I'm really happy with who I am. But if you do get angry, if you do show those sorts of traits, then you're not there unconditionally.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point to pick up on as well, is that usually when we react, whether you want to admit it or not, it usually means there's a question about ourselves that is coming up. Yeah. Because actually, if you truly know you're this way and someone says the opposite, you'll just go, doesn't bother. You'll let it go over the top of your head.
See, but you know what you said, going back to what you said about, you know, like betrayal, cheating, that type of thing, mate. I know a lot of people that have done it and or have been a victim of it, if that's the right phrase. And when you actually look back on it and they have conversations and they split up, divorce, whatever it is, they actually, every single one of them says, not in these words, but the sentiment applies, that the person who they were with and the reason why they cheated and or that person cheated was because they didn't get what they wanted from that other person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something was missing. Something fundamental was missing from it.
Which I think really, I mean, it's a crazy thing, and I dare I say this, but from a woman's point of view, and I'm obviously not a woman, but from conversations I've had with numerous individuals, is that they try and change a man.
Wow, this is how the whole feminine and masculine side of things work. The energy of it, and we're going to have to get into the energy side of this. What the masculine energy wants to do is to put structure in place.
Yeah, and fix things.
And fix things and problem solve. And that is masculine energy. And like, the thing is as men, we do have feminine energy as well. We have the most, but predominantly it's more likely to be masculine energy. And likewise, women will have the masculine energy as well. Whereas women are free flowing, and their sole purpose. I mean, some great books to read on things like this. Starting things like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and various others. I'm trying to think of the other one as well, but it's a bit more sexualised than that. But
50 Shades Grey?
50 Shades of Grey. Not read it myself.
No, me neither.
Come on.
I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
I don't read books. I wait for the movie to come out.
I think it's called The Way of the Empowered Male, or something like that. I can't remember what it is. I've read parts of it. It's a really interesting book. But the feminine energy wants connection. That's what they want, is connection. Yeah. And what we're essentially trying to do is to control that, put structure around it a lot of the time. And that's when the relationships start to get difficult, is when there isn't that connection. Yeah. And so learning more about how the masculine and feminine energies interact is quite fascinating, and it will help a lot with relationships. Because actually what ends up is we're trying to control each other. Yeah, we're trying, like you say, trying to change each other and control and bend each other to our sort of, our own wills, if you like. So, why is admitting your loss the first step to being found?
That's a very good question, Mark.
And it is question mark.
But it is absolutely. But I think the answer to that is very simple. I think it's actually admitting you're lost in the first place. I'll give you an example. So we answered the question previously about how you was before you hit rock bottom. I'm pleased you find it funny.
No, I think you just repeated the question rather than answered it.
Yeah, I did. I'm a politician. What's the matter with you? Right. Okay. I can speak from my own experience about actually admitting I'm lost. So previously, before the spiral out of control, I didn't think I was lost. I thought I was living the dream. I was earning money. I was enjoying myself. I was doing everything that I think a father and a husband's meant to do. And it wasn't until really that you take a step. And it was actually during COVID that made me realise these things. So up until that point, I thought I'd cracked it. Do you know what I mean? I had this car, this holiday, and all the rest of it from a financial point of view. But looking back on it now, I actually realise I was lost because I was lost within myself.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So when you define lost, I would actually say that it's, are you lost financially, emotionally, yourself, with other people, or whatever it is? Because I genuinely thought I knew where I was going. I thought I'd cracked it. And it wasn't until you're sitting there, because I'm an outdoor sort of person. I like to be out all the time. And it wasn't until I actually sat down, and obviously we were confined to the house, that I started questioning my motivations why I was doing something. Now, that was down to the fact that me and my ex-wife were arguing. Work hadn't dried up, but we had to change things. I didn't really have the capacity or the inclination to do it, because I thought, why change it if it's not broken? And I think that's the key thing, is that in terms of, and it was actually a mutual friend of ours that actually highlighted this situation to me, because I actually, and I looked him straight in the eye and said, I'm not lost. I don't know what you're talking about. What more am I meant to, what else out of life is there in that reality?
Yeah.
So I think admitting I was lost and I cards on the table was the hardest thing. Outside of being vulnerable, it was actually admitting it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I was lost. I thought I'd actually was living the life.
But I guess that is the vulnerability, is actually getting to the point where you could admit it.
100%. And it was only up until probably recently that I would admit, and I actually look back on it and think to myself, I was lost. I wasn't going down. I wasn't being myself.
It sort of goes back to sort of like, the typical, the man thing to do.
Correct.
It's like when you're out in the car and you're lost. You know, before we had sat nav to help us. How often would the wife, the girlfriend, sitting in the passenger seat, just ask someone for directions, but we won't.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's just no, I'll find it.
Absolutely.
And it is a trait of men.
Agreed.
It's actually, we just don't want to ask for help,
No.
or to get that direction. It's almost like there's something in our makeup to say, "Don't do it."
Of course.
But I totally resonate with what you're saying, because we can sometimes put a lot of emphasis on those material things and I'm going along in the right direction, money's coming, and all those external factors again.
Correct.
But actually, if we really question it, so do I know where I'm going? What is the end game? Where's the goal? Where's the target? Where am I really heading in life? What do I really want? And we think it's a thing, it could be, I want to be wealthy, I want to be this, but the real question is why? So, all right, we've discussed that men are generally quite crap at asking for help.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've talked about how, first of all, we've got to admit to ourselves that we're lost.
Yeah.
So, if you sort of come to that conclusion and you're not used to doing it, how might you start to think about asking for help? What might you do if you're feeling in this place where you're not great, you're perhaps feeling stuck as fuck? How might you start to go and ask for help? What could you do?
Well, I was thinking, one thing that they could do is literally ask us to speak about any topic, and we'll discuss it. And it might be a way, rather than saying I'm in this position,
a friend of mine,
owning up to, or a friend of mine, or tell us too much about telling us too much about their particular scenario. Just ask us to talk about a subject, and we'll delve into it.
Yeah,
we don't know what's going to come out. We'll be vulnerable, and we'll see what comes up. I think the thing is as well, recognise. The last thing we're going to do is judge someone, because we totally realise actually how that can suffocate you, stop you opening up, and also that judgment doesn't ever help in any scenario.
It really doesn't. And the thing is as well is actually we'd only ever see you in a positive light for asking the question.
But this is what this is for, right? the idea of this is just for us to talk about our experiences and get people resonate with it. But the reality is, on the other side of it, to answer that question, is to use us as the platform. We might not give you the answer you want, but we will give you an answer based upon our experiences, and we'll put it all out there.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to say, oh, such and such has said this. This is a question.
Yeah.
What we can do, we can make it not about ourselves, but we can answer it on our basis, because chances are the problem might be something that one of us has experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, either one of us or someone we know.
Well, 100%.
Or just share what we think at the time, because I think that's being part of being vulnerable, is just to open up and have the discussion.
Correct.
And the other thing as well is rediscovering you. We run a number of services as well, designed purely to help people open up, understand themselves better, and start making good, positive steps to change their circumstances. And whether that's one-to-one coaching, one of our workshops, or whatever.
I think just put some comments as well. Comment even if you disagree, because that's okay. I think there's always two sides to an argument or discussion. Anyway, I say argument. I mean, really, it's just discussion, right? And that's something that comes, I think, with as you get older. It's okay to just discuss and be on opposite sides of the fence. And often when you're actually open and discuss it like that, you'll often actually find there's some common ground anyway.
Well, we don't agree on everything, do we?
No, absolutely.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.